With his newfound strength, Takaru launches a counterattack, smashing the opponent into a tree. However, just as quickly as it appeared, his power fades, leaving Takaru wondering what just happened, like he just suffered a memory glitch. He asks Himegami if he did something foolish again. She calmly reassures him, saying he saved her, but then rewards him with her saliva in his mouth, shocking everyone. Following this, Haruko grows envious of how the other girls seem to get along effortlessly with Takaru, unlike her. Frustrated and insecure, she starts acting cold toward him and serves him a box of food full of green peas. Takaru is surprised and confronts her about it, but she snaps, calling him ungrateful, telling him to start cooking his own meals. She takes the bento box, and as she turns to leave, he tries to stop her, only to accidentally tug on her skirt, leaving her humiliated in front of her juniors. But Minayet never misses an opportunity to hit this dude's paperback face. Takaru scrambles to explain that it was an accident, pleading with Haruko to confirm his innocence, but she furiously tells him not to address her so casually anymore, leaving him stunned. Later, Wabro wonders what to eat now, since he has no food and is broke like you. Inabo shows up and rambles on with some news a hungry man will not bother to hear. The Kenkibu Club convenes after this, and the Student Council president briefs them on a string of violent incidents at school. Victims have reportedly lost all memory of the events. With no leads on the perpetrator or witnesses, the president assigns Takaru and Minaya to investigate further. Before they start, Minaya bluntly tells Takaru how much she hates him in his face, explaining she's only working with him because she has no choice. This makes Takaru wonder why he looks so much like an ape than his parents. Later, while Minaya reviews the minimal information they'd gathered, Takaru's growling stomach becomes a distraction. Being irritated, she reluctantly hands him a snack. Meanwhile, as he eats, Minaya reflects on a time when she admired Haruko's strength and character, which has made her respect her since then. However, the shameless fool finishes the snack and asks if she brought anything to drink. Minaya gets mad and kicks his ass, telling him to go drink his urine. While taking a moment to drink water, he reasons that he is being treated like a pile of shit and becomes determined to prove that he is rather only a piece of trash. He then tries to call the Kenkabu Club to report the situation, but his attention is abruptly captured by a rough girl who claims to know the culprit they're investigating. Before he can react, she learns his name and activates her makin, creating a web-like structure on the ground that immobilizes him completely. Minaya quickly intervenes and launches an attack, but the girl skillfully evades it. Undeterred, she uses her makin to trap Minaya as well, after discovering her name. She starts to mock them and remarks that she had hoped to face the higher-ranking members of the Kenkai-Bu. Not lame A's like them. Takaru instinctively reaches for his phone to call for Baka, but Minaya sharply warns him against it, insisting that they must handle the situation themselves as part of their mission. Meanwhile, back at the Kenkai-Bu club room, the team grows concerned when they notice the pair hasn't checked in. Due to this, Haruko immediately heads out to check what is happening. The girl demands that Minaya and Takaru call for reinforcements, or she will leave their faces damaged beyond medical repairs. Despite the threat, Minaya refuses to chicken out, saying she will prove that she is not a weakling. Just then, the strange girl shuts her stinky mouth with her makin, unleashing a bright and powerful explosion. Takeru sees this from afar and immediately calls on Kimi to give her a lift to the location with her makin. Haruko makes an MCA entrance, catching the attention of the crazy who immediately tries to use her makin to pin Haruko to the ground too. However, Haruko resists the attack with ease, surprising her. Haruko then questions her motives, but the girl appears to have a hazy recollection of her actions. However, she reveals that since the Makenki higher-ups wouldn't easily grant a battle request, she devised a scheme to draw them out instead. Enraged by the harm done to her juniors, Haruko activates her makin, overpowering the girl in an instant. Realizing Haruko wields the most powerful of the 8 makins that exist, the girl challenges her to draw her sword and settle the fight once and for all. But Haruko dismisses her, stating that her weapon only unlocks based on the intensity of both her emotions and her opponent's strength, which means she can't use her makin here because her opponent is too weak. Insulted by the comment, the girl charges at Haruko, only to have her makin shattered in a single strike. The blow not only disables her weapon, but also knocks her unconscious. After witnessing the immense power of Haruko's makin, Takaru expresses his admiration and asks her to train him, which immediately reminds Haruko of how they used to train together as kids, and she eagerly agrees. Meanwhile, an unidentified man reports the incident to an unfamiliar girl, who is shocked that Haruko didn't even need to unsheath her sword to win the fight. Realizing the danger Haruko poses, they decide to lay low for the time being. On a certain rainy day, Inaho gets engrossed in her thoughts of when she and Takaru were young. Takaru shows up in her face suddenly, calling back her attention and tells her the guys need to change. As she heads out, she tells Takaru it was rainy that day too, but he doesn't understand what she means since he can't remember Jack. During the crystal ball class, they all practice how to maintain their concentration, but Takaru keeps getting distracted since he is suffering from severe ADHD. He gets talking about the strange girl from the other day with his friend, and they are amazed that she couldn't remember anything she did, as her memory had been wiped out by a third party, just like the other victims in the past. Just then, Minori smacks their heads for talking in class and says this class is an important foundation for their fighting, because knowing how to use their elements is more important than using the making itself. She offers to demonstrate it to them and calls Kuragasa out. However, the egomaniac replies that Minori better watch her steps or she will get clapped. Minori tells him to worry for himself and then takes a powerful stance, which allows the proper flow of her element while explaining the technique to the class. As the duel begins, she immediately charges at Kuragasa and knocks him off in one hit, shocking him. Later that day, Takaru and Inaho head to the groceries, and on their way back, can't stop thinking about their time together when they were younger. Just then, the idiot suddenly tells her he has been feeling hot and can't hold it back any longer in treating her. She thinks he wants to kiss her, but is disappointed when he suddenly gives her his load and runs off to use the loo. After he returns, they sit under a shed because of the heavy rain. As they talk, Inaho mentions it raining that day again, but Takaru is still clueless as ever. He tells her to give him a hint so he can remember, but no matter the hint she gives, his brain fails to fetch up the data, making her sad. He then tells her to remind him, but she says she cannot, because it would be boring that way. A few moments later, he asks them to get going, but she tells him to go ahead, because she would like to be alone. Takaru takes his leave, and Inaho sits there, thinking that she wants him to remember, because it contains her promise to him. She leaves the shed and heads into a mountain, which Kengo happens to see in a glimpse, making him wonder why she is alone. As Inaho walks across the mountain, she finds a cute meow and carries it. Meanwhile, back at the dorm, Takaru gets concerned that Inaho is not yet back, even though it is already late, and Himagami steps in to insult Takaru for being so insensitive to Inaho's feelings. The blockhead realizes his mistake and heads out immediately, but on his way out he meets Kengo, who suddenly asks if Inaho is back. Takaru replies that he is going to look for her, making Kengo pissed that he caused this. He punches Takaru in the face for leaving such a poor girl alone and making her cry. He almost lands another punch, but Takaru won't let a fellow bird-brained like him hit him twice. He runs off immediately, while remembering Inaho's words, and he feels sorry for being a jerk. Getting to the mountain, he starts to call her name. Hearing him, the cat leaves Inaho and runs in the direction of his voice immediately. However, as the cat stares at him, a rock suddenly breaks off and heads toward the cat, shocking Takaru. Reacting swiftly, he runs toward the cat immediately and uses the same technique Minori had explained to them, saving the cat just in time. Some other rocks immediately break off again, as though they are desperate for a victim, and almost smash the savior and the saved, but Inaho intervenes with her making, shattering the rocks. Takaru gives Inaho a piggyback ride as they head back, and she thinks about the promise she made to him, to become his wife when they grow up, and the promise he made to get stronger and protect her. Takaru apologizes for not remembering the promise and tells her to wait a little longer. He then tells her he will get stronger one day so he can protect her. She feels emotional as she hears this, realizing that, deep inside, he hasn't forgotten what he said to her back then. Several weeks later, Jen rushes to meet Haruko and Kengo, eager to find out where Takaru is. However, he's shocked to realize the person they're dragging along the ground, beaten to a pulp, is none other than Takaru himself. Confused, Jen asks what happened. Haruko and Kengo explain that the idiot was trying to separate two fighters and accidentally popped their balloons while at it, causing the two girls to beat him blue-black. After that, Jen pulls out a box, announcing, "We've finally managed to get him a muck-in." But before he can explain further, something catches his eye, a helicopter hovering over the academy, with a group of individuals preparing to descend. Seeing this, he becomes shocked and runs off immediately. Meanwhile, several girls step out of the helicopter. Seeing them from her office, Midori wonders who they are. Suddenly, an ugly buffoon, dressed like a captain, opens the door to her office and makes a grand gesture, announcing the arrival of an idiot. Upon recognizing him as Akiya, Minori slams the door in his face, demanding to know why he is there. Unbothered, Akiya introduces the girls from the helicopter, revealing that they are transfer students. Minori is shocked, but Akiya further elaborates that the girls are maidens called Venus. However, Minori doesn't give a damn about some cutting straight to the point and demanding to know why he's really there. Akiya then divulges that Kamigiri suspects someone at the academy is plotting to revive the Yamato Norochi. Minori bursts into laughter upon hearing this, saying she never knew someone that intelligent could believe in such a myth. Akiya goes on to explain that the Kamigiri is an organization that wields the power of Maken and element to support the nation from the shadows. He further elaborates that in ancient times, when gods ruled the world, the Kamigiri were initially a combat group of individuals who opposed the rule of the gods. With such a history, he confidently asserts that any speculation they make should be taken seriously. Jen, accompanied by 2 other teachers, confronts Akiya with anger, demanding to know why he is there. However, Akiya snumps his and leaves alongside the student council president to meet the Kenkebu. After he leaves, Jen reveals that Akiya was once part of the original generation of Makenki along with them, surprising the others. Later, the members of Venus introduce themselves in the Kenkebu's club room. Despite the introductions, they refuse to recognize the Kenkebu as comrades, stating that they will only do so after witnessing their abilities. During the exchange, one of the Venus members, Yan, insults the Kenkebu, provoking Izuki. Furious, she challenges Yan to settle the matter over a battle, and Yan agrees without hesitation. But since fighting is prohibited among the Kenkebu, they decide to compete in sports instead. The volleyball match kicks off with Izuki serving the ball. But Dimitra, one of the Venus girls, swiftly counters using her element, knocking Horuko to the ground. Frustrated, Horuko declares that, while she initially saw the game as a joke, things have escalated, and as the Kenkebu president, she vows to give it her all to defeat them. The game intensifies as both teams exchange points, eventually tying at 14. With just 2 points left to determine the winner, the players become even more aggressive. The Venus had challenged that if they lost, they'd join the Makenki. However, if they won, the Makenki would have to close up for the rest of the semester. As the match progresses, Yan delivers a devastating serve that damages part of the court. In response, Kimi sets the ball, and with Haruko and Izuki's combined strength, they unleash a powerful shot that sends Yan crashing into the wall, leaving her furious. Dimitra also gets very angry and unleashes the full power of her Makin. Haruko, in response, summons Heaven's Gate and prepares for a defensive stance. Dimitra launches an attack which Haruko counters with her Makin, resulting in a massive explosion. Takaru, acting on instinct, jumps in to defuse the situation and ends up saving Surya, one of the Venus players. Surya is grateful and tells him, "I have a thing for ugly guys like you." Acknowledging Takaru's intervention, Dimitra expresses gratitude for saving her teammate and apologizes for pushing things too far. In the aftermath, both teams recognize each other's strengths. Although the match ends without a definitive winner, the Venus decides to join the Makenki. The next day, the teacher introduces Surya to the class, and the room is immediately stunned when they realize she is a well-known idol. Surya spots Takaru and eagerly jumps at him, thrilled to discover they're in the same class. However, Inoho quickly steps in, claiming to be Takaru's fiancée. But she realizes that she has been in Delulu when Surya asks some tough questions about her supposed relationship with Takaru. Afterward, Surya leaves, and the ugly boys, association of the class, pounces on him for bagging all the pretty girls to himself alone. Later, Surya talks to her colleagues about her growing crush on Takaru. When they ask her what her plans are, she admits she wants to go on a date with him but is concerned about the other girls crowding around him. Her friends reassure her, promising to help clear the way so she can have some uninterrupted time with him. They then discuss their plan to handle the competition, with a particular focus on Inoho, the glutton, whom they intend to deceive using her favorite snacks. The following day, Takaru notices Kengo looking downcast and asks what's troubling him. Kengo laments that no girl has shown any interest in him since starting school, which makes him wonder what he's doing wrong, since Takaru, who has a scary face, seems to be gaining attention. As they talk, Takaru spots a love letter on his desk and quickly hides it before Kengo considers hugging the ground because of his miserable life. During lunch, Takaru goes to the restroom to read the letter, feeling excited at receiving a love confession for the first time. However, he is unaware that Kengo has secretly followed him and is eavesdropping. Kengo rushes to inform the girls about the letter, but they're skeptical because someone as ugly as Takaru shouldn't be receiving such a letter. After school, Ino realizes Takaru is missing and wonders where he could have gone. Meanwhile, Kengo, who knows his whereabouts? Enel gets upset and jealous since he is going to see the chick who wrote him the love letter. While searching for him, Enel becomes distracted by 2 bags of snacks placed in her path, just as the Venus girls expected. She then stumbles upon a doll of Takaru, which was intentionally left there to deceive her, and she falls for it. Because she is the dumbest in the history of anime characters. Meanwhile, Takaru is caught off guard when he discovers that the mysterious letter came from Surya. She takes him out for an impromptu stroll around the city, enjoying their time together. However, after their spontaneous date, she leads him to a creepy building where she suddenly vanishes, leaving him alone in a dark room, making him think he has been stolen. Elsewhere at the school, Himegami and Haruko encounter a pile of chairs set up to block their path to Takaru. Himegami senses someone watching them, and Yan appears, impressed that she was detected despite hiding so well. Suddenly a seat appears underneath Takaru, forcing him to sit and restraining him. Surya appears and asks, "Are you ready? Because I'm about to spice things up." Meanwhile, Haruko, carrying Takaru's doll on her back, wonders why he's not responding. She scolds Surya and calls her a disgrace to womanhood for not recognizing that she's carrying a doll. Yan, grinning mischievously, announces, "It's already too late," but she is shocked when she notices Haruko holding her planned outline, wondering how she got hold of it. The group soon realizes that Takaru is trapped in a sus room and rushes to save him before he gets violated. When they arrive, they discover Surya only intends to give him a special performance. That night, as Takaru lies in bed, he wonders why he didn't fall for Surya, even though she's got big pillows and is paying his fog. A few days later, the boys decide to confront the student council to challenge the rule prohibiting boys and girls from taking swimming lessons together. This rule would block the boys from seeing the girls' plot, which they aren't willing to accept. To resolve the issue, they propose a water riding competition where the outcome will determine whether the rule stands. The student council agrees and preparations for the contest begin the following day. The game's rules are simple. Each participant wears a headband, and anyone who loses their band or falls into the water is eliminated. As the match starts, the boys execute their first plan. Takaru targets Inoho, hoping to exploit her soft spot for him. However, she surprises him by countering his move effortlessly. Takaru quickly switches tactics, whispering in her ear that she is getting fatter. This flusters her enough for him to snatch her headband. With Inoho out, Himegami steps in, attacking him with her Shikigami powers. Takaru holds his ground but tries to unsettle her by telling her he doesn't know which is flatter, her chest or her personality. This makes her mad, and she retaliates with a lightning strike, knocking one of the boys into the water. The battle continues, with both sides cooking each other one by one. As the match reaches its climax, the girls launch a final offensive. During this charge, Dimitra senses the presence of someone approaching and momentarily freezes, throwing Surya off her rhythm. Takaru seizes the opportunity, immediately grabbing Surya, with her heavenly treasures pressing against him, and removes her headband, securing victory for the boys. Later, Surya confronts Dimitra about her sudden hesitation. Dimitra reveals that the final member of their team has arrived, signaling that it's time to begin their true mission, investigating the Academy's students and capturing their target. The following day at school, Takaru and Kengo are relaxing on the school field when Takaru's attention is drawn to a stunning silver-haired girl sitting by the window. He immediately points her out to Kengo, leaving the idiot gobsmacked. Elsewhere, while Haruko and her friends suck on their lollipops, the student council president approaches them to inform them about a new student joining their school. She tells Haruko that she will be in charge of the girl since she is blind. However, the girl suddenly appears behind them and declares, "I don't need anyone's help," catching everyone off guard. She shocks the group even more by accurately stating the color of their underwear before explaining that, while she technically can see, she keeps her eyes closed for reasons they wouldn't understand. Later, Takaru and Kengo, still captivated by the mysterious girl, wander around the school like jobless morons in search of her. During their search, they stumble upon a heated exchange between a guy with a Karen haircut and a girl named Odo Jaime. The argument escalates and Odo Jaime boldly declares, "I'll forgive you if you bend over and lick my feet." The dude scoffs. "I'd rather bend over for Diddy in the same cell." He soon notices Takaru and calls him over to be a witness to their fight. Takaru quickly tells Kengo to fetch the disciplinary committee and reluctantly takes on the role of referee. The situation intensifies as the guy activates his make-in and forcibly drags Odo Jaime into his... The two stand still for some moments, making Takaru wonder if this is the English or Spanish challenge he's seen on TikTok. Otohime's older brother reveals that his younger sister possesses the ability to create a unique space where she can dominate anyone who steps inside. In a display of her power, she begins to twist her brother's arms and nearly breaks his neck. Seeing this, Takaru feels compelled to step in and be the hero, rushing toward them in an attempt to stop her. This only infuriates Otohime, who turns her abilities on him, causing him immense pain. Takaru, however, soon realizes that it's not the conflict between the girls that bothers him, but his dislike for witnessing someone weep while being overpowered. He grows determined and pushes through the pain, surprising Otohime, who wonders how he's able to resist her control. Takaru advances toward her, but she intensifies her power, nearly eliminating him. Just then, a silver-haired girl intervenes, stopping her. Akaina arrives and tells Otohime that she's gone too far, but she snaps at him, insisting that this is none of his concern. She orders him to mind his freaking business, threatening to report him to her grandfather, Kimigeri's chief. After she leaves, Takaru praises the silver-haired girl's abilities, and she introduces herself as Manurva. Afterward, the Kenkebu summon Takaru and confront him about his poor academic performance, pointing out that he hasn't managed to pass his exams. They bluntly inform him that the club does not tolerate dumb skulls, warning him that if he fails the upcoming makeup test, scheduled for the next day, he'll be shown the door. This leaves Takaru feeling miserable because the odds are against him as someone with a 2-digit IQ. However, the girls rally around him, with Manurva suggesting a focused study session in the form of a mini training camp. Later, Kengo joins Takaru to help him train, but Takaru struggles to properly harness his element. Frustrated, Kengo asks what else he has passion for, since this is clearly not working for him. Determined to prove him wrong, Takaru refuses to give up and dedicates himself to practicing throughout the day and into the night. Finally, his persistence pays off, and he succeeds in controlling his element, triggering a significant surge in the amount of element in that environment. Himegami immediately senses the sudden change from her location and considers investigating. Before she can act, however, she notices that Manurva has already been tailing her and confronts her. To Himegami's surprise, Manurva compliments her invisible Shikigami, something no one else should be able to perceive. Himegami begins to suspect that Manurva might have seen her true form. Manurva confirms this, revealing that she has been ordered to bring Himegami to Kamigiri to prevent her presence from destabilizing the seal of Amenohara. Himegami's Shikigami immediately react, launching an attack on Manurva. However, Manurva easily fends them off without much effort. Realizing the extent of Manurva's power, Himegami prepares to confront her, but is caught off guard when Manurva clarifies that she is not there to fight. Instead, Manurva explains that her mission also involves assessing the strength of the Academy's students. She mentions that she discovered another student with a similar wave of power to Himegami, revealing that she is referring to Takaru. Himegami demands to know if Manurva intends to take him as well. Manurva replies that she hasn't made a decision yet, as she has only just begun her observations at the Academy. The following day, Takaru manages to pass his makeup exam. The Kenkebu commend him for his effort and welcome him to stay with the group, exciting him. A few days later, Gen helps Takaru by integrating his maken into his body, and Minori explains that this type of maken only activates when an opponent uses their own maken, leaving Takaru more confused, just like you in an algebra class. Seeing that his brain processes information in 2 bytes per second, she decides to break it down even further, stating that it's like that because his maken can cause his opponent's maken to go berserk. Later, as Takaru heads back to class, he glances at his hand, contemplating when he might need to rely on his new maken, then sighs, since he can only use it when his opponent uses a maken. However, memories of his encounter with Odo, whom he met the previous day, flood his mind, fueling his resolve to be better prepared for such situations in the future. Meanwhile, the Kenkebu convenes to discuss their upcoming summer training camp plans. As they outline the activities, the student council president drops an unexpected announcement. This year, participants must cover the expenses themselves, unlike previous years when the club sponsored everyone. It all becomes sad immediately, because they are all a bunch of broke losers trying to make an impact. While brainstorming ways to raise money, they notice the principal putting a banner on the notice board. Curious, they check it out and realize they've just found a way to earn money for the training camp. Excited at the chance, they sign up and start working at a local cafe the next day. Meanwhile, Otohime uses a tech-enhanced purr to spy on the school, as she is curious to find out the true strength of the bozo who resisted her power the previous day. Later, they get talking, and one idiot embarrasses Haruko by pulling her clothes and making an exhibition of her milk jugs. She leaves immediately, feeling ashamed. Standing on the balcony later, she wonders what Takaru must be thinking, after the scary sights she carries on her chest. Suddenly, a mysterious dude clad in armor ambushes her, firing shots from a revolver. Haruko tries to fend off the attack, but his relentless assault proves too much for her to handle. Just when things seem dire, Takaru intervenes, tackling the assailant from behind. He confronts the attacker, calling him out for targeting a woman. But Bro doesn't give a damn about a women's rights activist nobody knows. The villain easily overpowers Takaru with sheer physical strength. Desperate, Takaru considers using his newly obtained Maken, but quickly realizes it won't work, since his opponent isn't using any Maken, just pure strength. The villain soon knocks Takaru to the ground, and while on the ground, writhing in pain, Takaru's hands begin to glow, like he's about to emote. Before the situation spirals further, Azuki makes a dramatic entrance, leaping in and neutralizing the attacker. After subduing him, they remove his helmet, only to discover he is the cafe manager. Turns out, he was being manipulated by an external force, which Gen identifies as the Kamigiri, shocking Takaru. Meanwhile, Otohime observes the result of her experiment and is dissatisfied with how it all turned out, hoping to see Takaru's true strength someday. However, a chick named Kikyo suddenly appears, proposing that she also wants to participate in her plans. The following day, Haruko is abducted, prompting Takaru to begin searching for her. During his search, he encounters Inaho, who hands him a tie clip, claiming it's a protective charm due to a recent incident involving him. She expresses regret for failing in her duty to protect him, and abruptly advises him to safeguard Haruko's feelings before running off. Confused but determined, Takaru continues toward class, until he's confronted by a girl behaving strangely, as though possessed. She claims responsibility for kidnapping Haruko, and orders him to come to the peak of Amanohara alone if he wants to rescue her. Takaru is startled but becomes even more alarmed when the girl introduces herself as Kikyo from Kamigiri. Realizing she is under some kind of control, Takaru wastes no time and rushes to Amanohara. Upon arrival, he meets the real Kikyo, who immediately challenges him to a fight. She demands that he give it everything he's got. However, Takaru turns the moment into a podcast-worthy session, asking her why she seeks strength. She tells him she wants to be mugging all her colleagues. Bro immediately tries to begin a motivational talk to make her change her mind, but she tells him to cut his hero crap. The fight takes a brutal turn as Kikyo overwhelms Takaru, leaving him battered and sending him crashing into the mountain. The crest on the mountain happens to match the symbol on his chest, triggering a flood of painful memories. He recalls his failure to protect his mother as a child and is haunted by the realization that he's still powerless to save Haruko now. As despair sets in, he remembers his mother's words, that true strength should be used to protect others or prevent conflict, not to dominate people. Fueled by these memories, Takaru's anger surges. The crest on the mountain begins to emit a radiant glow, and his body enters a berserk state. The veins of the mountain illuminate as fountains of elements burst out, which Takaru's body absorbs, leaving those around him in shock. Observing the chaos, Imigami summons a Shikigami, since the other two little bros are still on a drip, to investigate what's unfolding on Amanohara Mountain. Meanwhile, Otohime, who is holding Haruko captive, remarks that Takaru's body will collapse if it reaches its limit. Takaru begins to levitate, like he just unlocked some cheat skill, and heads toward the school with the intent of attacking his friends. Otohime watches in excitement, and her brother speculates that, given Amanohara's reaction, Takaru might share a bloodline similar to theirs. However, Haruko strongly disagrees, asserting that Takaru could never be related to their shitty lineage, because she has always known him to be a nice guy. This angers Otohime, and she retaliates by inflicting pain on her. Just as things escalate, the Venus Maidens appear, intervening to protect Haruko. They urge her to focus on saving Takaru while they handle the enemies around them. Haruko immediately steps through a multi-dimensional portal leading to the academy. She shows up with her Maken unsheathed, shocking the others, since this is the first time she has wielded her Maken. Haruko charges toward Takaru, who is still absorbing energy from his surroundings, almost to the point of implosion. However, she strikes precisely at the tie clip Inaho had gifted him, which instantly calms him and restores him to normal. Relief washes over the group as they celebrate Takaru's return. Kikyo arrives, declaring that she's there to take Takaru by force, claiming he is eligible to join Kamigiri. However, Takaru refuses, standing his ground, and the other girls rally behind him, ready to fight. Seeing their resolve, Kikyo decides to retreat for now, warning Takaru to master his abilities before they meet again. Why is Takaru